I watched my spouse, Corey, marry my best friend while texting me, working late, unraveling decades of lies to discover the truth. The text message, shining in my car's darkness, was saying, 2 p.m., Sarah's church. You have to see this. Unknown number. My hands shook as I held the steering wheel and watched visitors pass my rain-streaked glass. Inside the ancient stone edifice, right now, Fiona, a cut-rate private investigator, is waiting in my car, wondering if I have finally lost my mind. Corey, my husband, reported to me he had a business conference in Chicago. The calendar read something like that. His secretary verified that, as well. The hotel reservation revealed just that, but here I am, parked across from a Boston church, since some stranger chose to act as guardian angel or demon. I haven't made any decisions yet. This is crazy, I said to myself, but I'm already grabbing my sunglasses as I get out of my car, heels clicking against damp ground. The church bells begin their sad call. Every stride seems like me moving toward my own execution. I slide in through the side door and settle behind a marble pillar. I smell lies and incense, and for a second, I find myself back 7 years ago, on my own wedding day. Same church, different dreams. My heart stops when the organ begins to play. He is there. He is, because there he is, Corey, my Corey here, hands clasped in front of him, that familiar anxious tick in his jaw, standing at the altar in a tuxedo I have never seen before. Chicago is not where he resides. Here he is. The bride shows up at the door, and the ground moves underfoot. Long, dark hair, olive-toned skin, that elegant walk. I would know it anywhere. Clara, my friend from 3rd grade, best buddy. The woman who guided me in selecting my own wedding gown. Dearly beloved. As I watch them exchange vows, the priest's words vanish into white noise. Promising to love each other till death, my spouse and best buddy, part as he assured me, like we all vowed to each other when we were young. But he always said, no secrets, no lies. I recall not leaving the chapel. The drive home is not clear from memory, but I recall the deciding moment, sitting in our ideal, magazine-worthy kitchen, which Corey insisted on redoing last year. I watched the sunset through windows that unexpectedly seemed like prison bars. There's a buzz on my phone. Corey running late for a conference. Don't hold dinner. I grab his preferred scotch, the one he saves for special events. As I swallow, the liquid burns my throat, and I relish the suffering. Unlike all else in my life, it is real. Still another text from the unidentified number. Now you know. Regarding that, what are your plans? What am I going to do? I laugh. It sounds strange to me, sharp, hazardous, like smashing glass. Opening my laptop, I begin to type, Dear Fiona, with any luck, this email reaches you. I had been considering organizing that family reunion you have always wanted, because betrayal is exactly that. It's about the complex dance of falsehoods that preceded it, not only about the deed itself, the deftly created alibis, the grins that have been taught, the little touches that were meaningless. And Corey, my lovely, beautiful Corey, has always danced rather well. But thus have I as well. I sip another scotch and grin. Let their honeymoon take place. Let them believe they are winners. Time is on my side, and I possess something higher than their adoration. I possess their faith. The sun sets totally, darkening me. For the first time today, though, I can see everything clearly. Each page of the old photo album seems weighty on my lap. Memories I no longer trust, weighing me down. Corey, Clara, and I, at 16, are spread out on my parents' yard. Corey's arm circles both of us, as we chuckle at some old joke. Like everything else about that summer, the corners of the picture show where. Corey from downstairs phones. I ordered Chinese. His footfalls, each, make my skin crawl in our room. 3 days after his second wedding, he has been home, behaving as though nothing had changed, that he did not simply destroy all we had created. As he walks into our bedroom with 2 plates of food, I won't eat. I close the album. Remember when we used to get takeout with Clara every Friday? The words fly from my mouth before I could stop them, sharp as broken glass. Corey's grin falls short of directly reaching his eyes. That was a lifetime ago, was it? I get up and let the album thump to the floor with pleasant resonance. Because she looked exactly the same 3 days ago. Just for a moment, his chopstick stopped midway to his mouth. Blink would cause you to miss it. Still, I see it. I am catching everything right now. Eleanor, He sets down his plate and approaches me with the same worried look he used on challenging clients. Has your drinking been? I chuckle. It sounds like the laughter of my mother following Dad's departure. That is your move? Gaslight the wife into thinking she is crazy. His hand reaches for mine as he replies, I'm worried about you. I pull back. When did it start? Burns my throat. Was it before our wedding? During? Tell me, Corey, was I the backup plan or the cover story? You're not making any sense, he replies, but his left hand quickly taps his tell when he lies. I have spent 7 years mastering his rhythms and compiling his routines. Funny how precisely you perceive things when you're searching for the holes. I was at St. Mary's on Tuesday. Words like smoke hang between us. Nice tux, by the way, better than the one you wore at our wedding. The mask slides, just for a moment, but it's plenty. His eyes turn cold and calculated. The Corey I never let myself see. Is this that it is not what you think? Don't. My voice is not trembling. I take great satisfaction in that. Don't offend me with excuses. I watched you marry my best friend, while I was supposed to be your loving wife at home. What exactly should I think? Another tick, as he rubs his hands through his hair. It's complicated. You don't grasp some of it. Like what? The joint bank accounts you opened? The property you bought together? Alternatively, maybe the fact your mother knew the whole time. That renders him unable. How could you? I go to the drawer and pull out the stack of papers I have gathered over the past 3 days. I am not the you, believe me to be. You should really use better passwords than our anniversary date, though I guess that's meaningless now. Eleanor, please, he grabs for the documents. I control them. We can work this out. I will explain everything. Like you explained your business trip to Chicago. I lay the papers, bank statements, property titles, emails, on the bed. Or should we talk about the trust fund Fiona established for your children with Clara? His face turns white. You had no right, said. I had every right. Raw and primitive, the scream tears from my throat. I am your wife. I was your friend. We grew up together, all 3 of us, and you. I pause, breathing hard. He is looking at me as though he has never seen me before. Perhaps he never did. Perhaps I never really saw myself, either. Get out. Right now. My voice is solid, definite. Likewise, is true with my residence. Not now. One last document I retain is a power of attorney, signed last year when he was too busy managing our estate plan. You ought to really read what you signed, Corey. Now get out before I call Byron, and have him escort you out. He bolts, not out of fear, but rather because he understands this is a starting point. For that he knows me sufficiently. From the floor, I grab the photo album and use my finger to follow our younger faces. We seem to be naive and rather joyful, such outstanding liars, every one of us. The cafe Clara and I used to keep secrets and seems smaller now. Perhaps that is the weight of what I am about to undertake. Alternatively, maybe everything from my past is diminishing and losing relevance with every fresh betrayal I come across. Still sporting the twin of her wedding band, Clara glides into the seat across from me. Seeing it tastes like acid in my coffee, she adds, her fingers tensely stroking the rim of her uneaten latte. I didn't think you would come. Funny, I didn't you'd marry my husband. The words come out softer than I intended, which somehow makes them cut deeper. She stumbles, Eleanor, I slide the bank statements across the table, like cards in a rigged game. Did you know about the trust fund? The one Fiona configured for next generations. Her face loses hue, not from remorse, but from wrath. Quite interesting, what trust fund? That is indeed surprising. Now, her hands quivering slightly. I watch her go over the papers. $3 million, I say, set aside for the grandchildren Fiona always wanted. Guess I wasn't producing them fast enough. This can't be right. Clara pulls the contaminated-looking papers away. Corey said the marriage was only a formality, for his inheritance. He said, I chuckle, and it sounds like shattered glass. That he loved you, Clara, that I was cold, distant, career-obsessed. That's exactly what he told his mother about me, last month. She stares fiercely. How come you aware of that? Because I have spent the last week learning just how completely my husband, our husband, has been playing us both. The waiter walks over, but we both wave him away without looking up. There is more, I said, pulling out my phone. Want to hear Corey talking about property investments with Fiona, the ones using your family's real estate contacts? Clara's voice falters. As my family's. Corey knew, well before he ever asked her out, that her mother, Grace, runs one of the biggest real estate companies in Boston. Did you ever wonder why he chose us? Asks the question, hanging between us like fog. The two best friends who'd never betray each other. The perfect cover story. Stop. Clara gets up fast, and her chair scrapes the floor. I understand you trying to hurt me, since I hurt you. I deserve it, but sit down. My voice never changes. The best portion hasn't yet been heard. She sits, more from shock at my voice than from compliance. Remember that summer internship Corey helped you get at Grace's firm? The one that convinced your mother he was such a wonderful guy? I slipped one more document across the table. Look at the date on that property transfer. Her hands shake as she reads. This is the signature of my mother, but she would never sell her prime investment property for half its worth. She had no idea she did. Check the signatures of the witnesses. Clara recognizes her own handwriting and crumples her face. I was just notarizing documents. Corey said it was practice for my license. While I was planning our wedding, you were unintentionally helping him steal from your own mother. The truth tastes terrible on my mouth. He played us both, Clara. The only difference was that I worked it out before he could take everything. For the first time since she sat down, she glances up at me, very definitely stares at me. What are you going to do? I get to stand and gather the paperwork. Invalid question. The actual one is, what are we going to do? I draw one last item, a USB disk with what I have found, and say, you have two choices. Keep playing his game and lose everything, or help me take him down. Your mother's company, my savings, Fiona's reputation. He's built his entire plan on the presumption that we would never compare notes. Clara fixes her eyes on the drive, as though it could explode. If this gets out, everything burns. I run my palm over hers, and feel the matching wedding band. But we will be the ones holding the matches, this time. She tightens her fingers over the disc, and I catch a flash of the buddy I used to know, fierce, devoted, relentless when crossed. When should we begin? I smile, and it feels true, for the first time in weeks. We already have. From the kitchen counter, 3 empty wine bottles mock me. Not my typical poison, but tonight is not usual. Corey's workplace papers are scattered around our dining room table. Our wedding present from Fiona, like bits of a jigsaw I never wanted to solve. Another Corey message on my phone brightens it. Please, let us discuss this sensibly, logical. Like the method he erected this palace of lies, like the deliberate accuracy with which he decided on his marks. Once more buzzing, as the phone, Clara, this one time. Grace is inquiring. We must get going more quickly. I turn it off, but my hands continue to shingle. The scope of what we intend, at last, strikes me. This goes beyond simply calling attention to Corey. Now we are discussing ruining families' names, life. The doorbell sounds. I wonder, momentarily, about ignoring it. Then though I hear the key in the lock. Corey is the only person with that key, except one other. Byron walks into the dining room and absorbs the anarchy. Jesus, Eleanor, when's the last time you slept? I faintly point at the papers. Do you know Corey's father committed himself? Byron goes still. What? I pull out the newspaper clipping I discovered hidden in Fiona's bank records. 10 years ago, right after Corey graduated law school. Officially, it was a hunting accident. Unofficially, I push forward a stack of bank records. He found Fiona and Corey had been embezzling, years, from his company. Christ. Byron settles onto a chair. Does everyone else know? Just the person who has been sending me anonymous tips. I tap the table. Burner phone, they sent me this today. I slip over duplicates of Silas Sykes's suicide note. He tried to expose them. Byron, he tried to stop them, and my voice falters. Byron reaches for my hand. Eleanor, but I back off. I'm becoming them. The words taste like ash. I'm turning exactly what I hate, from all these plans, for revenge, for justice. No, you're not, Byron says with a stern voice. You're shielding Clara's company, your future, Grace's, am I? I get up, moving slowly. Or am I just so focused on destroying Corey that I don't care who gets caught in the crossfire? Because, right now, I'm seated here planning to expose everything at the family reunion, knowing it will devastate people who had nothing to do with this. Like, someone. I grab one of the wine bottles, not caring that it's empty. Like Corey's sisters, kids who lose their college money when I uncover Fiona's financial machinations. Grace's staff might lose their jobs should the company's reputation suffer, like Will Sykes, who died trying to do the right thing, while I plot complex revenge. Scenarios, like some comic book villain. Byron pauses, silently, for a protracted length of time. He stands up, then grabs the bottle from my hand. You wish to know how you differ from them? I turn aside, but he keeps on. You're torturing yourself about the moral consequences of your actions, here at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're sleeping peacefully, counting their money and planning their next con. That does not make it right. No, it doesn't, he begins, systematically gathering and sorting the documents. But it means you have a choice. You can expose everything, dramatically, at the reunion, as you planned, or what? Or we do this the right way, legally, carefully. Silas Sykes's suicide note is here, he said. We finish what Corey's father started, but we do it smart. We first guard the innocent parties. Another message from the unknown source comes from the burner phone, buzzing. Inquire of Fiona about the offshore accounts. I fix my eyes on the message, then on the anarchy all over my dining room table. 7 years of marriage, a lifetime of friendliness, generations of lies, all leading to this moment. I say at last, okay, show me how I should do this right. Byron nods and gets out his phone. First, we should speak with a financial fraud expert. I know a man. I hold his arm and wait. Before we do this, I need to know something. Are you helping me because I'm right, or just because I'm your sister? He fixes my gaze, consistently. Both, and neither. I'm helping you since someone needs to stop them, and you're strong enough to do it without becoming them. I examine the empty wine bottles, the strewn papers, the proof of my almost plunge into their realm of control and retribution. He may be right. Perhaps another method to burn it all down is here. Byron's friend, a lawyer, keeps chatting, but I fixed on the one single sheet of paper in front of me, a name list, mainly children, trustees of which our scheme would fall apart if we carried on. The offshore accounts are just the beginning. Frank Harris continues distributing more papers over his mahogany desk. Fiona Sykes's financial web runs, at least 3 generations of both families. How many people would be affected? My voice sounds far, even to myself. Directly, roughly 30. Indirectly, he shrugs. We're talking about tearing down a decades-long program. The knock-on effects might affect hundreds. Byron forward, leans, but we can prove the fraud readily. The issue is whether we should. Frank runs over the name list. Some of these trust funds are supporting education and medical treatment. I get up quickly and head to the window. Stop. Boston spreads out below, unconcerned about the bomb we are about to blow. Another way has to be found. There is a buzz on my phone. Clara. Grace came upon the missing property records. Byron adds, reading across my shoulder. She's calling Fiona today. We're running out of time, anyhow. Everything falls apart if Grace confronts Fiona straight. I then go back to Frank. How long would it take to get protection for the innocent parties? Weeks, maybe months. We would want the door of the office explodes open. Fiona Sykes is there, always flawless, but her eyes are crazy. I should have known you'd run to Byron, she says, sneers. Frank begins, how did you? My daughter works in your building, Frank. Did Eleanor tell you that part? How many families she's ready to destroy for her revenge? That's rich, coming from you, Byron adds, standing and straying between us. Fiona pays me more attention than him. You think you're protecting people? Silas thought the same thing. Look where that got him. The chamber falls quiet. Even the metropolitan noise appears to fade. What did you just say? My hands, knuckles white, clutch the rear of the chair. Oh, did your anonymous friend tell you everything? Fiona asks, with a stern smile. Silas tried to fix our plans, rerouting money to safeguard the beneficiaries, just as you were planning. He did not just discover that. And you stopped him. The bits fit together. The hunting accident was, she says, just that, then pauses, an accident. Her eyes dart away. The point is, Eleanor, some buildings cannot be taken down without destroying everything they support. You're not just fighting Corey or me, you're fighting generations of carefully balanced arrangements. I spit. Arrangements built on lies and theft. Built on necessity, she says, getting closer. Did Corey tell you why he married you? Your family's 3 generations of judges and prosecutors, 3 generations of perfect shield. Once more, a buzz comes from my phone. On the screen, Grace's name shows. Take the call, Fiona urges, gently. Listen to Grace. Discover what her daughter's been hiding. Watch another family break. Or she pulls out an envelope. We might talk about substitutes. Byron says, Eleanor, don't. What alternatives? My voice is firm, but my heart bangs against my ribs. Fiona says, a clean break. A generous settlement. The innocent parties stay protected. Fiona lays the envelope on Frank's desk. Everyone wins. Byron says, everyone except justice, quickly. Fiona chuckle. Ask Eleanor what she actually wants. Justice or peace? My phone keeps vibrating. These days, Clara's messages complement Grace's calls. From the desk, the name list stares up at me. Children, families, futures. How long do I have to decide? The words taste like surrender. Fiona steps to the door until Grace finishes reading those papers. Choose deliberately, Eleanor. Unlike Silas, you still have options. She goes, and the office seems both bigger and more stifling. You cannot seriously be thinking about this, Byron says. I pick up the name list, then my still buzzing phone. What if her right is? What if trying to correct this just makes everything worse? Not justice, but that's fear talking. Maybe. I glance at names. But what if terror is trying to convey something vital? One last time, the phone buzzes, then goes quiet. It is too late to stop whatever Grace found now. I pick up Fiona's envelope and feel the weight of choice is not yet taken. I need to talk to Clara, I say at last, before we decide anything else. Because sometimes, I continue. I'm learning revenge isn't about who you're willing to hurt, but who you're willing to spare. Before me sits the Sykes family estate, its windows shining like evening caution signals. All the actors gathered for what they believe to be a surprise anniversary party for Fiona and her second husband. Cars fill the circular driveway. Byron says, standing next to me and clutching the bag full of all the evidence, every paper, every recording. Last chance to back out. Clara appears at my other shoulder and says, they're already inside, her voice taut. Grace is with them. Corey is watching the door like a hawk. I change my black dress, funeral suitable, though they are not yet aware of it. Did you check the exits? Frank has people stationed at every door. Byron says, glancing at his watch. No one leaves until everything's disclosed. Once you start, Fiona's envelope weighs against my ribs, nestled into my garment. Her offer of silence, of protection for the innocent, weighs against me. Still not opened, still conceivable. We arrive in the kitchen, where caterers are busy without realizing they are presenting Mitchell Dynasty Last Supper. Corey finds me right away. His face flickers between skepticism and relief. Eleanor. He comes near me, carrying a champagne glass. I didn't suppose you would show up and miss Fiona's party. My smile feels like broken glass. Wouldn't dream of it. His gaze flies to Clara, to Byron, to the briefcase. I see the instant he discovers something is wrong, but Fiona's voice breaks through the hushes of discussion. Everyone, kindly collect in the main hall. The audience moves, carrying, with it, us. I notice flashes of familiar faces. Grace, pale but understated. Fiona's second husband, husband blind and radiant. Corey's sister, gripping hands of her children. The young ones. God, the sons. Fiona pulls out her glass. Thanks all for showing up too, actually. I forward, my voice carrying across the unexpected silence. I'd like to say something first. Corey comes toward me, but Byron blocks his way. Clara takes a seat close to Grace. Fiona says, Eleanor, her voice low, give great thought to what you are doing. I open the still sealed envelope she handed me. I have thought about it for weeks. I've thought about nothing else. I turn to face the room. About justice and protection, about who deserves the truth and who deserves mercies. Eleanor, Corey's voice, now, clearly reflects actual terror. Whatever you think you know, I know everything. I open the briefcase, but, not yet, I do not remove the papers. About Silas's death, about the trust funds, about your 2 marriages, Fiona's schemes, Fiona's lies to keep this house of cards standing. The space comes alive and whispers. Grace marches onward, her face ashing. Clara, Grace replies, with shaky voice. I apologize, Mom. Clara's voice breaks. I knew nothing, not until Eleanor showed me. Clutching her children tighter, Corey's sister asks, showed you what? What are you doing? I look at the kids, their innocent futures waiting on my next words, their perplexed faces. The envelope from Fiona sears on my flesh. The truth, I say, quietly, is that I came here tonight to destroy everything, to expose decades of fraud and manipulation, to get justice for everyone who's been hurt by the Sykes family's lies. I get the first paper, Silas's actual suicide note. Fiona moves, rather silently, but, standing here, looking at all of you, I glance back at Corey. I understand something worse than being misled, something worse than being deceived. Byron says, Eleanor, his voice tight. But I continue. The very thing you're fighting against is becoming. I touch it to Fiona's envelope. The paper catches fast, and I drop it into the briefcase. I find a match in my handbag. No. Byron jumps forward, but it's too late. Years of careful investigation, burning to ash. With it burns my opportunity at justice, at revenge, at everything I thought I wanted, since, at times, the best retribution is redemption rather than destruction. Fiona sits across from me, on the marble island, both of us wet from the sprinklers, watching cops cart away boxes of evidence. The actual evidence, not the decoy files I burned. Painted Fiona's perfect kitchen in alternating red and blue copies. I answer, softly. Everything in that briefcase, merely copies. The originals arrived at the FBI 1 hour ago. Her immaculate nails pound against her coffee cup. You chose this moment on purpose, the party, here, family gathering, like father, like daughter-in-law. I slide Silas's real suicide note across the desk. He planned to disclose everything at your anniversary party, too, didn't he? Prior to the hunting mishap. The drumming stops. Byron is watching, with grim enjoyment, through the glass. Corey, being guided to a police car. Fiona's voice, quivering. You don't understand what you've done, she continues. Those trust funds were being protected. Pulling out my phone, I show her the court orders. Every innocent beneficiary has been lawfully detached from the false accounts. The kids will hang on to their college money. The treatment keeps on, medical level. I sense actual dread in her eyes, for the first time. How much? As, leaning closer, I add, I had 3 weeks after you presented me the envelope, 3 weeks where you felt you would win. Did you truly believe I was doing nothing for that period? Much? We hear activity at the door. Grace walks in, followed by federal officers. Her eyes connect with Fiona's. Grace states, simply, you killed Silas when he tried to protect my daughter from your schemes. Fiona stands so fast that her chair falls over. That's absurd. Much as I interrupted, Silas was going to expose how you used Clara to access Grace's company records, then how you manipulated Corey into marrying us both to maintain your financial facade. Everything I accomplished served this family, only. Fiona tears. Clara answers, looking at the doorway, tear-stained but steady. No. Everything you did was for yourself. And today, we all know the reason. Fiona goes somewhat motionless, as I slide one final document across the counter, an old picture. Silas wasn't merely aiming to reveal the hoax, was he? I inquire, seeing her expression crumple. He found something else, about the true father of Corey, about why you so sorely needed the connections of the Jeter family. Mom, what's happening? Corey's voice calls from outside. Fiona leaps for the picture, but Grace is faster. Her shriek resounds in the abruptly quiet kitchen. Looking at the picture, Grace D. That's my father. Staring at Fiona, 37 years passed. I say, 9 months before Corey was born. The truth hangs between us, like smoke. Decades of control, all to conceal one desperate affair, thereby preserving the Sykes family's pristine image. You destroyed everything, Fiona says quietly. No. I stand, compiling the last of the papers. You lost everything the moment you chose lies above love. Silas fought to save all of us, and today, at last, he has, what precisely? Do you mean much? One last time, I grab my phone and show her the message chain from an unidentified number, from a dead man, scheduled emails, planned to arrive years after his death. I meet her eyes. Silas knew he might not survive trying to expose the truth, so he left breadcrumbs for whoever was brave enough to follow them. I was Silas's first victim, Fiona. However, I am your last. Corey is watching by the glass, finally seeing, dawning on his face, as Grace hands him the picture, as the cops walk to escort her out. Was it worth it? Fiona wonders, as they lead her away, burnishing everything to save a dead man's honor, of Clara and Grace, now free from manipulation, of Silas, who passed away trying to protect us all. I consider the children, above, their future is, now safe. I add, gently, some things are worth burning for. Byron squeezes my shoulder as the sun rises over the Sykes estate, casting everything in gold. Beside me, sirens fade. You okay? 30 years of lies, collapsing in Fiona's path. I see her go into a police cruiser. No, I say, honestly, but I will be. Sometimes, the truth simply tells you who you really are. Sometimes, it doesn't set you free. Corey's last box from his study remains unopened on my kitchen counter. Autumn leaves abound in my backyard, where 3 children, previously, swore to be friends forever. Through the window, Clara says, Grace wants to meet both of us. My phone buzzes. Fiona and Corey, both convicted, ended the trial yesterday. The headlines claim, justice. The society pages labeled it, scandal. Neither fairly portrayed the facts. Expecting more evidence, more secrets, I raise the top from the box, only to see an ancient video camera, the kind we used summer before college, when everything seemed possible. Clara stands there, appearing smaller, somehow, more like the girl I used to know than the lady who helped sort everything. The doorbell rings. Holding out an identical camera, she adds, I found my too, from Mom's attic. Both of us set them on the counter, these relics of who we used to be. Neither of us reaches to switch on. Did you come across Corey's comment? She inquires. No, I pour us both coffee. This is a habit from earlier, when friendship was straightforward. Did you much? Her giggle sounds brittle. He said he loved both, actually believed it, I guess. Sliding her cup across the counter. That's Corey, I remark, living his own truth, even when it's a lie. Clara strokes one softly, while the afternoon light catches the cameras, creating twin shadows. Before Grace arrives, she continues, we should observe them, before we choose our course of action. She nods. We both know Grace's meeting is about the future of her business, about trust and second chances, about whether some bridges can be rebuilt after they have burned. It is not only about reconciliation. Corey behind the camera, narrating, our last summer together, behind which we are young, laughing, whole. Corey connects the first camera to my laptop. The screen flickers to life. Before college, before decisions, before we knew how love and lies might wear the same face. Clara says, unexpectedly, stop, then looks at that moment. The picture freezes on our younger selves, sharing some forgotten joke. But it's Corey's reflection in the window that catches my eye, the way he watches us, both, scheming, even then. I understand he simply showed us who we already were, not destroyed us. What do you imply? Clara queries. You always yearned for adventure. I was always yearning control. He only turned those facts into weapons. The second camera sits dark, uninterested. Certain facts, I'm discovering, don't need to be seen to be understood. Clara's coffee sits uneaten, going cold. Now we choose, I say, between easy and true, not between right and wrong. Grace grabs my hand before Clara moves to answer the doorbell, once more. She says, I'm sorry, not for loving him, for not remembering how to love you first. Remembering Fiona's last remarks, during the trial. Love makes liars of us all. I squeeze back. Maybe, I say, Clara, we quit trying to change the past. Perhaps we should start something fresh. She nods, knowing what I'm not saying, about Grace's company, about second chances, about how occasionally, revenge isn't about destroying what was, but constructing what may be. Fiona plans her appeal somewhere, in a prison cell. In another, Corey writes letters we will never read. Life moves forward, messy and imperfect. Grace opens the door and notes how she carries herself now. Straighter, stronger, free from decades of manipulation. The autumn wind scatters more leaves over the yard. I leave the cameras on the counter, unaltered. Certain memories are better lived than remembered. Some facts are not revisited, necessary. Clara and I glance at one another, remembering other documents, other plans, other decisions, as Grace piles papers across my kitchen table, plans for rebuilding, for forward movement, prepare. Grace questions of Fiona, creating barriers to hide truths, never worth preserving. Of Silas, planting truth bombs to detonate years after his death. Of Corey, loving so fiercely he forgot how to love honestly. Indeed, I say, and I mean it. Sometimes, the best kind of retribution is one in which one gains freedom rather than exacting revenge.